Hey, good morning, folks. Sam, the DIY man, here today. What we're going to be looking at today is we're going to be doing a little siding replacement here at one of the customers' homes. What we have here is we have some cedar shake siding, and what has happened is, obviously you can hear in the background, the dogs have chewed up a little bit of the siding, and it's an older siding. I had to do a little bit of searching in order to find it locally here, but we did find a piece of siding, and just want to give you an idea of what we're looking at here with the siding. So as you can see here, we've got the old groove cedar shake siding here, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut this piece out, and then if you come over to this corner here, right here, we've got a couple of pieces here on this corner that we're going to remove, and then we're going to get everything painted and touched back up. And the idea here for me is to make sure that the customer doesn't ever realize that I did a replacement here, other than the fact that it's new and looks great and looks fantastic. It's a very simple, easy fix, and what I want to show you today is how I would do this, or how I do this in order to make it look right, with the painting process as well as removing the old stuff and getting the new back in place. So just stick with me and I'll give you an update as we get started taking this stuff out. Okay, so the tools that I'm going to use today are basically just a little pry bar, just a small one, doesn't have to be big, and a sharp utility knife. Make sure it's a new blade. And the reason for that is we're going to be cutting some caulking. So I want to make sure that you have something that's pretty sharp to be able to easily slide through the caulking. And this little pry bar here, you shouldn't need any more than this right here. It's a small one, and make sure it's got this flat end on it, because what we're going to do is we're actually going to be sliding it up behind the siding and slowly working some of the siding above the damaged pieces. So if you look here, this is the damage right here. So this piece here, we're actually going to take and pry this out just a little bit, not very much, to be able to get this out. You want to be very careful when you pry out on this one, because this stuff can be very brittle. So you just want to make sure that you just slowly pull out on it, and just enough to be able to get this piece worked out from behind it, because it slides up behind it, probably somewhere up in this neighborhood. It may be a little lower, we just don't know until we pull it off. But anyway, just stick with me and I'll show you as I get started in the process of removing. So first, I'm going to get here and I'm going to show you that it's very difficult to see, but if you will look right in this area, there's a little caulk line right there. And we're just going to gently cut down that caulk line. Gently cutting down it, just enough to cut that caulk. It really is not necessary on a piece that's damaged. As you can see, this is damaged, both of these. But I always like to do it just because it's easier to remove this piece once you get that caulk line cut. And now you can see that I've actually got that caulk line busted loose. So you can see what I've done here. And then over in this crack, it's not necessarily a caulk line, but you got a little paint that sometimes feels, and you just want to gently pull that blade down through there to break that loose so it doesn't bust any of the paint off of the piece next to it. So you're just going to gently just slide that blade down through there, right? And then you're going to be at a point where you can start to work this piece out. Now, as I was saying, this piece here is the piece you need to be careful with. And I want to come up here, and it's hard to see that line right there, but there's my blade. You can see there's a little paint line. So I'm just gently going down that paint line, not to damage the siding, again, just to break any paint loose that's in that crack so that I can pry out on that piece, right? And again, you've got the same thing on this corner. We're going to take care of all this when we go back. We're going to put some more caulk in this. We're going to fill it back up and make it look like it's supposed to look. So you just want to gently just cut down that caulking. Sometimes it's going to get stuck in there. So just pull it down, and you'll see it breaking loose as you slide the blade down it. All right, and this is going to allow you to get underneath this piece and just slowly pry out on that piece, and be very careful, because as I said, it is brittle. So I'll be back with you in just a minute as I begin to get this piece out. Now on this particular piece, I got this piece removed, and I want to see if I can show you something, the way that they've got this double layered under here. So you can see it's got a double layer there. It kind of gives a space. If you look down under here, it gives that space there. So what we've got behind here, now that that piece is out, you'll notice that I've got a couple of nails right in there. If you look really closely, you can see the nails. All right, in order to get the other piece up behind it, when I slide it up properly, I have to go in and pull those nails out of there so that it will go up in there and it will sit properly once I get the new piece in. So I'll be back with you as I begin to slide the new piece in and get this other piece removed. You can see I've got both of these damaged pieces out on the corner, and I've got this piece. Actually, there was two pieces here. I pulled the one piece that was majorly damaged, and the piece next to it wasn't really bad, but you know, in order to do the job right for this customer, I want to make sure that it doesn't look like the dog ever scratched anything. So I'm going to go ahead and replace them both. Anyway, just stick with me, and I'll be back as I begin to get the other pieces ready to go back in. Okay, as you can see here, I've got my replacement pieces set up, and I'm set up in the van right now because it's actually a little cold outside. I want to make sure that my primer stays pliable. So what I'm doing is getting my replacement pieces prepped. I'm just using a multi-purpose latex primer here from Sherwin-Williams. But the one thing that I'm going to do, and I know this wasn't done when the siding was originally put on, but I'm one of those guys that's OCD. I want to make sure that my stuff is done properly. So you can see this is the front side, the back side is smooth. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to prime both sides. I'm going to completely encapsulate this these pieces so that when they go in, I know that the back side is primed and I have encapsulated it to try to prevent any further rot. So I'm going to get started on getting these primed, and I will be back with you as I get that going. So this would be a perfect time to have my camera stand so I could set it up and show you what I'm going to do here, but I'm going to try to do this one-handed. If you're familiar with painting, this will be pretty simple. If not, I'm going to show you what you want to do is take your brush and just get plenty of primer on that. And then I usually slap mine on either side and just kind of wipe it clean. And then you just want to take and put a nice even coat on this. And I'm going to show you as I come back what it should look like when it's done. But I just want to kind of show you how to work that brush a little bit to make sure you're getting plenty of primer on it and making sure that it's really wet. So when you apply that primer, you're not dry brushing. You want to make sure you keep the brush extremely wet and you're getting plenty of primer on this. So I'll be back with you in a minute and show you a piece after it's finished. All right, folks, I've got my Cedar shake here. I've got it primed. I just want you to take a look at it, what I've got here. I've got a nice even coat of primer on it, and then spin it around on the back, and you'll see that I've got, you know, a nice even coat there. And then here is what I wanted to show you. This is the bottom edge of my Cedar shake, and I've got that encapsulated with primer as well. Here's why. This is going to be the wettest part of your siding. If you get a good rain, a good blowing rain, or this is low, when it rains and that water runs down, it's going to run down to that bottom edge. So this is going to get the most exposure to rain right here, this edge right here. And I know there's a lot of theories out there about cedar, and that cedar technically does not have to be primed because it's a natural no-rot material. And to a certain extent, I agree with that. However, being in the field that I'm in, I replace a lot of cedar shake that are exposed to a lot of moisture, and they do rot. It takes a long time for it to rot, longer than a typical piece of pine or oak or something like that, but it will rot. So I choose to encapsulate completely, including the bottom edge, just so we can try to prevent as much moisture damage as possible and hopefully make it last a little bit longer. So this is what it should look like when you've got it all primed out, nice even coat. And then I'm gonna go up and get my area prepped, pulling nails, and I'll show you how I personally pull the nails to keep from tearing up the rest of the siding. But anyway, this is what it looks like as this dries. I will move back up on the porch and begin to get that all prepped for the new pieces to go in. So stay tuned, be back in just a minute. Okay, so I'm back up on the porch and I want to see if I can get in here and show you as I was showing you earlier. And I know that sun is blocking us pretty good. Let's see if we can get down here and get a better angle on it to see. So just bear with me as I get the camera. All right, so you can see right here, I've got a nail and I've got another one right over here. So what I'm gonna do, this is just how I do it when I'm trying to get these nails out, because it's easier to roll a pair of these. So I'm gonna take a pair of these right here, electrician's Klein pliers, and I can take these and get into here, and I can actually reach up on this nail, and I don't know if you can see it right there, but I'm on that nail, and I can take and I can roll that nail out. So as I take these pliers, I'm rolling them, and you can see that as I do that, that nail just slides right out. To me, it's the easiest way to do it without tearing up a bunch of things under there. So that's that's my method. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm gonna show you another method on some nails down here when I get to those, so you can see exactly what I do. And hey, it's okay, that nail can be long and it can actually force you to push the siding out a little further than you want to. It's okay to clip it, just leave enough on it when you clip it to be able to still roll these pliers. And you just work them back and forth. And when you work them back and forth, you see your nail comes right out. So here's another method that I will use on nails like this right here. You can use a pull bar, that's fine. If you don't have a pull bar like I do, you can take these pliers, just a small pair of channel locks, as you can see, and you can take those things and you can actually grab onto the head of the nail and you can roll that up. And I want you to see what it's doing to that nail when I roll it up. And the reason I roll it up is because you can see it's rounded and it almost acts as, you know, leverage to be able to pull that nail out. And there you go. And it just, to me, it makes it simple for those who may not have a pull bar laying around or a hammer readily available. You know, I just use whatever I have in front of me sometimes. I do have all the right tools, but you know, sometimes it's a chore if you don't have the right tools. Anyway, those are just some things that I do to remove those nails. So I'm gonna finish cleaning these nails up, and then hopefully the primer will be just about dry and we can start the process of putting it all back together. We'll be back shortly. Okay, I've started putting the new pieces in. You can see here, this right here, still loose. But once I got the nails cleaned out from behind here, this piece just slid right in. And all I'm doing is matching the bottom up with the piece next to it. Make sure it's good and level. And then we'll come over here. And I'll show you in a minute exactly how to split this piece. This cedar siding is actually really easy to be able to just cut down. You don't have to have a special saw or anything like that. Just that sharp utility blade will help tremendously. So I'll get to that here in just a second. So I'm gonna get some nails in this piece right here. So let me go over here and I'll show you what I'm doing. This particular customer actually doesn't have any exterior outlets for me to be able to plug up my compressor and use my staples. So I am going old school. And there's nothing wrong with going old school. I wish a lot of other things were done in an old school manner. But all I'm using is 8D finish nails right here that I will drive into the lower part of this particular shingle in order to secure it back to the wall. And I'll also go right up above it. Since I pulled the nails here, I will go up on top and make sure that that secures well. Of course, as I said, when you do this now, just keep in mind, it's going to require a little painting, you know, above it in order to make sure that it's done properly. But you do what you have to do to make sure that the job is done right. So when you do it, I'm just trying to show you the easiest way, hopefully to help you do this in a very simple manner. So I'll show you once I get my nails in where I put them, and it's where they were used to be installed as well when the siding was originally put up. So just stick with me and I'll be back. All right, so as you can see, I've got a nail there, a nail there. You come up above, nails in the same place, and you'll notice I've got two nails beside each other here. What you've got there is two old nails that I had to cut. They kind of poked their way back out. And I just drove those back in and put two new ones as well to make sure that it was secured properly. Now, I've got this piece here. Obviously, you can tell it is too wide for the spot. So what I'm typically gonna do is I'm gonna hold this up just like this, and I'm gonna come in with my utility knife, and I'm going to put me a mark right there where my finger is, all right? And then I'm going to flip it upside down, like this right here, and put me a mark on the bottom. And what I'm gonna try to do is I would try to reach over to the front edge with my utility blade. And the reason that is because when I flip it back over, I want both of my marks to be on the same side. So when I use a straight edge to cut down that, then it will cut and I'll be able just to break that in two. So I'll show you how to do that here in just a minute. Let me get my measurements and I'll be right back. This mark right there, you'll see it. And then I've come down here and I've got this mark, and you see it right there on the bottom. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a piece of this siding, right? And it's gonna give me a straight edge that I need. It doesn't have to be exact, but you want it to be as close as possible, because remember, we're gonna caulk this up and paint it. But if you're a perfectionist like I am, I try to make them as exact as possible on things. So I would put my straight edge just like that, and then I'm gonna run my knife right down that straight edge, It doesn't have to be deep, so don't try to go deep. You just want to make a couple of shallow passes, and then I'll show you what you do from there. You can see my score line down through there. So all I'm going to do from there is I'm going to take, and you can use a pair of pliers if you want to. I usually just use my hands. And I'm going to take that, and I'm going to apply pressure to the backside about where that crack is, right? And when I do that, what you'll notice, see what happens? And that's just about 3 passes down through there with a straight edge. So I've got my piece there, and then I'll take that piece and I'll stick it up here and make sure that it lines up good. And then sometimes you're gonna have to look up in there to make sure that it slides up properly. And then you can see right there that that piece just slides right up in there because I removed those nails. So now I've got that piece right there in place. I'm gonna put a nail in that, and then I'm gonna move over to the other side, and then I'll begin to show you, what we do from there. Once we get the nails in it, get everything secured up like it's gonna be, I'll be back with you when we start the caulking and puttying. You can see we got the pieces in, and I am in the process now of getting it caulked up and prepped up for paint. And I just wanted to take a second just to show you how to do this. A lot of people have trouble with caulking. It's actually very simple to do and to make it look right. The key to a good caulking job is making sure that you have a wet rag and don't put too much caulk. What you want to do is just start with a thin bead. And as you see, I've got my caulk gun here, just a dripless caulk gun. I prefer the dripless rather than the one that you have to twist to keep it from squeezing the tube. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and I'm going to stick it right in that corner. I want to try to get a good shot of this as I begin to squeeze the caulk out. So I just got a little thin bead down through there, all right? And then we're gonna drop down, do the same thing here. Little thin bead going down through there. All right, so now that I've got that in there, I wanna show you, I got my wet rag right here. And I'll keep my wet rag usually in my other hand, but for obvious reasons, not right now. So I'm gonna come up and stick my finger in that corner like that right there. I'm just gonna run my finger down that edge right there, just like that. And then I'll always keep my wet rag for excess caulk. All right, and then you can see that caulk overflows a little bit. I personally do not like this. It just does not look like a good job to me. So typically what I will do is I will take my utility knife and I will turn that point like that right there, stick it in that groove, and just wipe that, try to wipe that out as best I can down through there. And that's also another good reason to have a wet rag, is you can take that wet rag, you actually stick it up in there. You don't want to stick it all the way up in the corner where you just ran that good fresh bead. So you can take just a little bit of it and stick it in that right there and try to wipe those ridges down a little bit and make it look like a more professional job. And then you drop down and do the same thing here. So that's the key to a good caulk job. You do not have to caulk the bottom of this. As a matter of fact, I tell people all the time, you don't ever want to caulk the bottom of siding. Again, the reason is if water ever gets trapped behind it, that water can't get out and it just sits there and it will rot the siding out. You want to make sure that you just run down the edges that you have to. And then you can obviously see this right here. And you know that paint's not going to cover this. So what I personally choose to do is I'll take a little bit of caulk and just squeeze it in that crack and just run it down and wipe it in there really good. Just to make sure that that crack's good and covered. And then the nail heads. A lot of people would use putty on this. The reason I don't is because caulking is a better sealant than putty. Putty can actually dry out and it will fall out of those nail holes and then allow water to get in. So me, I just run a little bit like that and just take my finger and just seal them up real good. Just wipe it out real good and make sure it looks good. Anyway, folks, that's how I caulk it up. I think it's just the easiest way. Again, remember, always keep a wet rag on you. And then once this stuff dries up a little bit, I will be back and show you exactly what I'm gonna do to paint this up and make it look right. All right, folks, as you can see, I've got the siding all done, caulked up. You can see that corner that was damaged. So I've got this pretty much set up. The caulk should be now dry enough to be able to go ahead and put a coat of paint on. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do here really quick, because again, as I said, I'm a little particular about how I do things just because I want it to look right. I don't ever want it to look like I was there. So what I'll do is, you see this section and this section, I'll paint those sections complete from the door over to the corner. Actually, I'll do all three because I forgot about this corner. So I'll do all three of these sections from the corner to the door completely with a brush, of course. And I will go do up and down strokes on this because it's vertical. And I want to keep, if you go this way, you're going to get paint buildup. So I'm going to go up and down with just nice even strokes and get this painted in, blended in, and make it look good. So I'll be back and I'll show you what everything looks like once I get it painted up. All right, folks. And that is how you do it right there. I hope this video helped you out to be able to easily do this. If you have a home that has cedar shake on it, maybe this video will help you be able to replace the siding if you have any rot or damage or anything like that. But this is what it looks like in the finished product. And as you can see, just like my primer paint is Sherwin-Williams. That's just the brand that I particularly love to use. I've been using it for, I don't know, about 20 years now, 25 years now. It's just the brand that I love more than any other. So don't forget to go down to your local Sherwin-Williams and check out what they've got, test their products. I will tell you that I think they're great. But anyway, folks, again, I hope this video helped you. Again, this is Sam, the DIY man, helping you with your everyday home projects. If you like this video, just click subscribe and please share with others that might be able to use this information. Thank you guys. Have a great day.